Hello everyone. Cell phones. Perhaps you're watching this video on one now. Mobile devices have completely changed our world and the way we live. Our digital Swiss Army knives can basically do anything we want them to do, which is why they are ingrained in our lives so deeply. We check our phones 150 times a day on average. We do it so much that now we have always-on displays and smartwatches just so that we don't even have to turn on our phones anymore to see our notifications. And it's not just a few of us that check our phones a lot. I mean, did you hear my statistic? 150 times a day. And that's an average. Given that we haven't always had smartphones to check and that this is a relatively new behavior for humans, it's definitely worth investigating. To do this, we must take a brief look at how the brain's reward system works, and that starts with a special chemical called dopamine. For those of you who have heard about dopamine before, you probably know it has many properties including inducing pleasure and motivation. There has been research, however, that suggests that while dopamine still influences motivation, it is not required to feel pleasure. A chemical called endorphin actually causes us to feel pleasure in many cases. This is supported by a study investigating the motivational properties of dopamine. Researchers found that if you deplete rats of dopamine, they will starve themselves to death even if food is right in front of them. The researchers believe this was because the rats lost all desire to eat the food even though not eating it led to their ultimate demise. When reviewing their ultra-technical data, which I will include in my sources in the description if you want to read it, they concluded that dopamine was actually not required for the rats' brains to mediate pleasure. In this video, we will assume that these researchers were correct and conclude the following. Dopamine causes us to want, seek, and learn more. Endorphin then rewards us with a burst of pleasure once we feel satisfied with the thing we received, found, or learned. So essentially, we have a wanting system which is driven by dopamine and a liking system which is driven by endorphin. You can see how this makes sense evolutionarily, as humans would need a drive to go hunt and find food or learn more about the world around them. You might also see how this is very similar to operant conditioning, which is when behaviors that are rewarded are repeated more than behaviors that are not rewarded. I won't go that much into detail about operant conditioning, but if you want to learn more about it, check out my other video, How Are Superstitious Beliefs Created, for more information. I'll put a link in the description. The problem with these so-called wanting and liking systems is that they can get stuck in a dopamine loop. You might seek something, be rewarded, but not as much as you expect it to be rewarded, and keep searching for something else. That's why we are obsessed with our phones. Text, posts, comments, likes, you name it. They are all pleasurable to our brains. Therefore, we are constantly motivated to seek these things, and we are never fully satisfied when we check our devices. In fact, the internet is almost designed to not fully satisfy us. The shorter the content is on your phone, like a tweet or a meme, the more powerful your wanting system reacts because it is not fully satisfied. Not only that, but dopamine is fueled by unpredictability. You don't know when you're going to get your next text or email, which causes you to want them even more. All of this just keeps growing and growing until eventually we become people who check our phones on average 150 times a day. Considering that probably 75% of those checks are for nothing, you can see why this might be an issue. But all is not lost. Yes, phones are super accessible gadgets that make our dopamine go crazy by never completely satisfying us. This makes them super distracting. Actually, I've probably checked my phone a few hundred times while making this video. But the nice thing about our phones is that they can be put away and you don't need them to survive. You might think you do, but you don't. That text can wait and you can scroll on Facebook later. You aren't missing out on anything. And please, focus on your driving. In a society so full of gadgets and connectivity, it is liberating to know why we are so hooked to our technology. Maybe understanding why we are so obsessed with it will lead to our eventual independence from it. This video was inspired by a comment on an earlier video I made. If you guys ever have any suggestions for new videos, please feel free to comment below and I can see what I can come up with. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.